Hey, it's Matt. Welcome back. This is going to be my second ever concert review slash vlog, and this is for the Warning for Pier 17 in New York City from June 11th, this past Thursday. I'm recording this, or I'm starting to record this on Sunday night. So I've had some time to process everything. What an experience it was. What a concert it was. I'm going to go into some details, though, a little background about me, about my experience with the Warning. So if you want to skip around, I'll have some time codes below. First off, Pier 17, this was my second time there, and my first time was literally like May 15th, like less than a month ago. I was there for another show for an artist named Bill Murray, a rock band. Not really a rock band, but it's too hard to explain in this video. So when I went in May, weather wound up being pristine. I was worried about it. I was worried it was going to be cold, but the weather was gorgeous. And Pier 17, the venue itself, and the setting, the backdrop of the Brooklyn Bridge, it's just beautiful. You'll see some pictures and some videos that I'll have here. I hope I remember to put here and not here. But, so yeah, this is my second time at Pier 17. It was also my second time ever seeing The Warning. Last year at the Palladium in Times Square was my first time. So for anyone who doesn't know my background with The Warning, I wasn't really listening to a lot of rock music at all. And then there started being like inklings that Linkin Park was going to get back together. And I was a huge Linkin Park fan growing up. So how everything worked out is that I think I was at the time I was playing some like mobile games and watching YouTube for mobile game updates. And then I don't know if it's because of the excitement or I don't know how the YouTube algorithm got me, but I started seeing like reactions to people who had never heard like early Linkin Park stuff before, and I started kind of watching it, and that's kind of like my introduction to reaction videos. And then Linkin Park actually came back, and I knew some people that were kind of not super thrilled about Linkin Park coming back, and so I wanted to find experiences of people who did enjoy seeing what I was seeing and like kind of share the feelings I had inside, right? So I started watching a lot of Linkin Park reactions, and one of the reactors, this will be a nice shout out to him, but I'm sure he'll never see this, that I was watching, who was doing a lot of Linkin Park with Emily content, was Tim Welsh, Vocal Studio. And it was January of 2025 when Tim Welsh, I don't even think I was subscribed to him at this point, but like I'd seen enough videos that he'd just come up in my recommended all the time, where he posted the reaction to Dust, Dull Knives by The Warning. And I didn't know anything about The Warning. I don't know what made me do it, but I was like, I'm gonna click on this. It was like my lunch break. And as I'm sitting there watching this, being like, damn, this sounds really freaking good. I start seeing the comments, and the comments is like starting to tell all like the Warning lore, which obviously made me very curious. Started when they were kids, rock band, Enter Sandman, yada 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 yada, and I just like, is this all real? So like I went to Wikipedia, and it was basically confirming all the things. I know Wikipedia is not like the best source, but this is kind of like how I was like, is this real? Does this really happen? And then I kind of started looking for more reactions for The Warning, and listening. I think when my lunch break ended, I'm a chemist, so I just kind of like do my own thing around the lab. I just popped in my headphones, and I started, I think it was probably the Error album, and I just pressed play, and did work. And I got to the end of the album, and I was like, what's next? And I put on the Keep Me Fed album, and pressed play, and let's go. and I listened to 2 albums, and I was like, wait, I haven't heard that Dust to Dust song. So I like did a little research. Oh, it's a concept album. Oh my goodness, I gotta listen to this. I put that on, and I just like nonstop. But I'm in my 30s, and although the music is fantastic, I was worried about the perception of what like my wife would think if she was like, oh, you're just watching, or you're just into this band because of the they're young attractive girls. So I was like kind of nervous to show them her, even though I knew she was gonna like them. So it's hard to, we had like a newborn at the time, so there was one Friday night the baby like went to bed super early, and then I was like, we haven't really talked about music a lot. It's like, yeah, I know. I was like, kind of wanted to like show you something. It's like, what do you want to show me? So I was like, it's this band. I just kind of want to show you and kind of tell you as I'm showing you. So first I popped on the Enter Sandman cover from 2014, and I was like, this is from over 10 years ago, 12. Well, I don't remember how. Time is an illusion, right? This is from 10 plus years ago. And then I went straight into Dust to Dust Dull Knives. And she was instantly like, this is amazing. Do they have more concert footage on YouTube? And then I showed her Evolve at MTV. It's like, is there more? And then I was like, I showed her something else, and she's like, you said they're Spanish, so they sing in Spanish, the Martirio. And then eventually, because they have like the Pepsi Center concert all broken up through individual videos, I think we wound up watching literally every single video from the Pepsi Center, and we were like, wow, it was great night, right? Great Friday night, just both obsessing, because I think at that point I hadn't even watched all of the live content. I had listened to most of the music, like while I was working and stuff like that, and while I was driving. But I hadn't watched every single video, so we literally watched every single Pepsi Center video, and even a few from like Lunario and stuff like that, because I wanted to show her like live stuff from the Queen of the Murder Scene album. Especially like Crimson Queen, I remember that specifically. We watched that one because that's one of my favorites. And then, the next day, we'll wake up. And my wife wakes up before me, wakes up with the baby, and I'm like, I guess my wife let me sleep in a little bit. And I get downstairs, and the baby's doing her own thing, and the TV is on, and my wife has the full-length Pepsi Center show on from YouTube on the TV. And she's like, did you know they had the whole show together on here? And yeah, so we kind of went down the rabbit hole very, very, very fast. That's kind of just like how it started for us, right? And I fell even like deeper and quicker than my wife did. Like within 2 or 3 weeks, I was on their Patreon. A week later, I had tickets to their show in June or July, whatever it was last year. And I've never. There are bands that I love, that I like a lot throughout my life, that I never even saw live, never even thought about seeing live. But then, like, this band, I'm like just like immediately into. I'm signed up for their Patreon. I'm in. I'm fully in. The reaction community, I'm like watching reactions constantly. At this point, I've seen so much warning content, so much warning reaction content. And then, part of it, like the experiencing it, the being part of this community, is kind of like why I wanted to start doing something like this. I made friends, from doing this, or from the community, right? So yeah, so now, and we went to the show last year. The show last year was amazing. I brought my brother, my wife, and my friend. We all had a great time. The show was great. The girls were great. So they had announced a bunch of shows this year. And, you know, we kind of thought that, like, maybe we weren't getting a US tour. It was, like, very, like, we had some festival dates here. They were playing with Youngblood. And then, out of the blue, I just saw a post online warning, headlining show, New York City. Hell yes. I immediately texted my wife. I'm like, Mel, we're going to the show. And she's like, yes. That was our conversation. That was our conversation. No other details. Just warning, headlining show, New York City. We're going. Pier 17. I had never been there at that point, but I heard great things. My brother's been there for a few shows. He said it was like an awesome venue, so I was pretty excited about that. But like then the build up from that point to the point where we actually got to the show, right? Because they announced that was going to be their only US headlining show this year, right? So I started seeing people all over Discord, all over Patreon. Oh, I'm traveling for the show. I'm traveling from here for the show. I'm traveling from Texas for the show. I'm traveling from California, from Pittsburgh, from Ohio, from Mexico. Like it's like crazy. And then, you know, we get closer, and you know, we start seeing like other YouTube reactors saying, "Oh, I'm traveling to get to this show." You know, Ashlina, and then Phil Zero, and it built like this like huge bubble of excitement around this show. Like I think this is the biggest headlining show the Warnings ever had. Right at 3,500, it sold out. There was also like the mystery, like they had not yet played a set since they started releasing new material that was as long as this is. So like what music are we gonna get? Like we're off the Keep Me Fed tour, so like maybe some of the Keep Me Fed songs would drop out. Maybe we'd get some older stuff. That's what I was hoping for. I was like, I want, you know, I heard I was there last year. We heard like the 5 or 6 songs they played from Error. We heard Narcisista. We heard most of the Keep Me Fed. I was like, you know, we'll still get a chance in the next year or two to hear some of those Keep Me Fed songs that I didn't hear. But like, I wanted something from 21st Century Blood or Queen of the Murder Scene or Error that I just hadn't heard live. I just wanted one, right? I just wanted one. We got it. We got one. So I was like really hyped for that. Because like it felt like a special show, right? It felt like it was supposed to be special. And so like 2 weeks before, everyone starts looking at the weather report, right? And it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good for 2 weeks before. It doesn't look good for a week before. It doesn't look good for like the day before, right? But I think it was like sometime, and I was worried like if it rains, it rains, whatever. I'll duke it out in the rain. I was worried about it getting canceled because of like lightning or something like that, and that's what it's supposed to be, a thunderstorm. That's what all the reports were saying, thunderstorm. And hot as balls, but thunderstorm is what I was worried about. So I think it was like 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock that day. My wife's like about to leave work, when she texted me. She's like, the weather report changed. There's no storm on the forecast. And I was like, hell yes. Hell yes. I was like, if this show got canceled, I would have like, oh, you know. Anyway, so I got out of work. My house is like further out on Long Island. I work on the border of like Queens and Nassau County. So I'm pretty like, I work like, you could say like 20 minutes away from the city. My house is like an hour away from the city, about. On the train, not from driving. Driving with traffic is another story. So I got out of work. I dropped the car off at my parents, who live pretty close to where I work. And then I got on the train close to my parents and met my wife, who took the train from our house. We took the train to the city, We went into Grand Central, Grand Central Station. We actually got pizza at Grand Central Station at a pizza place. I'm gonna Google the name of, because talk about good places. The place is called Prova Pizza Bar. That was had great pizza. We got a quattro formaggio slice and a regular slice. Delicious, amazing, highly recommend. And we took the subway down to, Pier 17. Quick walk. We actually went through. I wanted to check out the old, the historic seaport area. We just walked through. We didn't really do anything there, but it was cool. Like the little cobblestone area. There's a really cool bar in the middle. I would have loved to check out, but there were a few things about the fact that it was on a Thursday night kind of messed up what plans I could have had, because both me and my wife had work early on Thursday morning, and just getting home from the city, because I had to pick up my car and then my wife's car basically before we went home. I think it took we left the concert at 9:30. It ended. We got to the train by 10, and we got home at a little after midnight. So it almost took us 2.5 hours to get home, right? So if we wanted to go out after, which I really wanted to go out, I wanted to meet some people. There were a lot of people on Discord and Patreon that were meeting up. I really wanted to come say hi, especially the people I've had conversations with and stuff. But it was just it didn't work out that way. So the night wound up being hot, really hot. But we got to the venue just when Charlotte Sands was starting up, and I had wanted to get merch at the show. I think I even said on one of my videos that I was I'm planning on getting merch at the show. The line was hella long, and I was I want to check out Charlotte Sands. Now Charlotte Sands, I actually knew, and I might have been one of the first people that went to this concert that knew Charlotte Sands was opening, because I follow her on Instagram, and I think she posted it before The Warning posted it, and I saw the post on Instagram a minute after she posted it, that she was opening for them. And I know Charlotte Sands because maybe 4 years ago, The Maine, and there's another band, released a song with Taking Back Sunday and Charlotte Sands, and it was a fun pop punk vibe type of song that was kind of the song of my summer that year.
If I was just a lie to you, you were less than that to me. Never loved you at all. Loved you at all. Tell me so you were falling for when we were lying on the floor. Never loved you at all. Loved you at all.
And I loved her vocal in that song, so I checked her out, and I found a few more songs, and I kind of been following her through the years. And some of the stuff she does is, I would say, more pop rock, or more alt pop, I think you would call it, which is not completely my style. So I don't love everything from her. But I was looking forward to how the show would go, right? Because she was opening for The Warning, so I didn't feel it was going to be a pop show, and I never saw any live performances from her, so I didn't really know what her vibe was live. But she came on the stage, and she had a guitar player and a drum, so I guess everything else is backtracked. And a lot of the stuff sounded really good. She had some great vocal performances. One of the songs I actually knew and liked was, I feel the highlight of her vocal performances. Song was called Use Me. And when I'm talking about this, I might clip small sections for people to hear, maybe.
Guess I'm not who you the bad guy.
And then like yeah, she had a song that had like a nice guitar solo. She had really good energy. The vocals were fantastic. You know, it was good. It was fun. And I think when we were watching Charlotte's Hands, I was where I wanted to be, which was just in front of the mixing booth, center stage. And it was so hot, and there were so many people just like walking past us that we were like, you know what, we're gonna move. So during the intermission, we actually moved out, so we were like all the way by the water. You know, Danny's side, when the warning came on. And then, you know, the girls came on. And, you know, from the minute they got on the stage, it was pure energy. The sound for both shows was fantastic. You know, you could tell that they definitely had some emotions about the show. They had like, because when I saw them last year, they maybe like talked to the crowd. Like I had an actual conversation with the crowd like once, and I feel like they talked to the crowd like 3 or 4 times on Thursday night. I could be miscounting or over exaggerating. I don't remember. I just had a great experience, so everything felt like it was like the best. You know, and the set list was fantastic. It was like, was it like the perfect set list for me? Like there were definitely some songs that I wish they would have played, but like I wasn't expecting them to play those songs, you know. Someone on Discord kind of spoiled that they overheard that a few songs were sound checked, and I was like, it made me excited. I didn't really care about the spoilers. Like it made me really excited to like know like we are getting like a more special show, you know. But yeah, like Pau gave a nice little speech, where I wouldn't say she like sounded overly emotional, but she sounded like, you know, very, very like blessed to like be in the position that she was in. And then later on in the show, Danny kind of broke down after Hell You Call a Dream, which was like emotional for everyone. But we got, you know, great songs, great performances. The set list, like I said, let me pull up the set list quick. For the set list, we got More, Sick, Satisfied, Choke, 6 Feet Deep. 6 Feet Deep was a surprise to me because I think that I heard, so one of the people that in the sound check, that heard the sound check said there was a song from Keep Me Fed that they hadn't played this tour. And I was not, I had a few guesses. I wouldn't have thought 6 Feet Deep though, because they said a few times over the last year how they didn't love playing that song. So that was kind of a surprise. Then Que Mas Quieres, Escapism with the extended outro, Money, and then the highlight, not the highlight, but like one of the highlights for me, Survive. You know, Survive is just one of those songs that like, it feels special, you know, all the old performances, the TEDx and Dakota Bar and Lunario, and every single time they perform it, it just feels epic, you know. So the fact, and they haven't played it, I don't think they've played it. I'm not like a set list like crazed guy, but I'm pretty sure they haven't played it outside of Mexico in a few years now. So like the fact that we got to hear it kind of felt amazing, you know. And they killed it, yeah, always killing it. Then Ego, which sounded fantastic live, as we all knew it would. Disciple, Ritual, which sounded amazing live. I don't think I've heard Ritual. That was the first time I heard Ritual since like aside from like the Lala performances. So that was pretty cool. It definitely sounded like fuller and better mixed than the Lala performances. And then I got to see the music video that night. And we got Sharks, then Hell You Call a Dream, and then Danny got emotional after Hell You Call a Dream. And then we got Martirio. I wasn't really expecting Martirio. I thought like if they kept one more Spanish song in, it would have been Narcisista, because they like closed with it last time. I thought that they felt like that maybe that was a better song for New York or something. I don't know how they make the decisions, but I kind of thought that if they were gonna have another Spanish song, it would have been Narcisista. But it was Martirio. I'm not complaining. I love both the songs. And then they like closed with Kerosene, which I've heard a bunch of live performances of Kerosene now. It did not prepare me for how good it sounded like there live, like because even like I've heard like all these acoustic performances, I've heard the Lala performances. I think I heard the performance they did at Tecate Pal Norte, maybe even a few more. I think somebody posted some videos from like the Youngblood tour where they played it. Then I maybe watched one or two. But it sounded so good, and there was so much energy to the performance. And it's one of like my favorite songs right now, I think. So that's like a plus. Yeah, and then they came back out and they did Evolve and they did Automatic Sun, and it was fantastic. And the Warning Tour DB posted a cool image that I think is going to be over here, this direction. We'll see, or this way, but it's going to be here. You're going to see it with the set list. And that was it was just a great experience. I don't know how much more I have to say. I'm gonna put some videos in now. I think I only took one video of Charlotte's hand set. And then I took like first verse, first chorus of a bunch of songs, but then I took all of Survive and my arms got tired, so I didn't do a lot after that. So yeah, I had the best time ever. I can't wait till they come back again. I can't wait till August 28th where we get to hear more new music from them when they drop their album, obviously. Yeah, if you guys have any comments, any questions, feel free to leave them below. If you enjoyed this, leave a like for me. If you want to see more content like this, I would appreciate a subscribe. I don't know how much more Warning content's going to be coming out until like we get a new single or until the album drops. But whenever something worthwhile comes up, I definitely do intend to check it out. I'm sure we're going to get a behind the scenes to Ritual as well that I'll definitely check out. But otherwise, if you want to see the content or see the fan cam stuff that I got, stick around. Otherwise, thanks for watching and take care.
Superstar. Okay. I'm never getting better.
here and having such a great time and it's only been 2 songs. So, are you guys ready to rock? All right, New York, are you up for a little bit of Spanish? You know this one, let's go. El hambre que está consumiendo tu interior, sin esfuerzo puedo yo saciar. La sed que te da solo me hace recordar con qué poco yo te puedo dar. Sin fallar, lo que su suerte necesita. Aquí va a estar, aquí está. We're very proud Mexicans today because we just won the first game of the final of the World Cup. Oh yeah, all in all today has been very special for us. And we thank you so much for being part of today. Oh my God. All right. Let's play some music, man. This is called Escapism. Get me out of my head. Drag me out of my bed. Make me move around to forget. There is time that needs to be wasted. To feel something inside. I will dive in my own delusions. Sleeping mirrors again. Sleep inside of my own illusions. Oh, that kills you. So I close my eyes till it all fades. And so I close my eyes and it all fades. Yeah, I'm still waking, trying again. So I'll just close my eyes till it all fades. We love this energy. Woo. You guys like my new guitar? Alright, let's get it! Hey! Whoa! I don't wanna break this down to you. It's a cruel thing that we learn to do. 'Cause we all gotta pay for something. We all gotta do for nothing. Happiness has its price. Let's too much. The weight of everything's just unavoidable.